The merging of myth and fact in the Viking era produced legendary characters whose exploits terrified their victims but left a lasting inheritance that shaped modern society. Well, who are these Vikings? The Vikings were seafaring people who made a name for themselves as traders, explorers, and warriors from the late 8th to early 11th centuries. They existed in the Americas long before Columbus and were found as far east as Russia. These raiders also helped to bring about many changes in the lands, from economics to warfare. For several hundred years, the sight of a Viking longship on the horizon terrified those in its path. Despite this, Vikings are frequently portrayed as bloodthirsty, violent pirates. They were also skilled warriors, craftsmen, and adventurers who became the first Europeans to discover previously unexplored parts of the world. Here are the top 5 legendary Vikings and the real stories underneath them. Number 5. Harald Hardrada. With his first flavors of battle at the age of 15, young Harald Sigurdsson had little idea of the life of war, conquest, and adventure that lay ahead of him, a life that would see him fight in battles all over the known world. Fighting in the provider of the great and powerful Byzantine emperors, he won the Norwegian throne before dying invading England. Harald, the Hard Ruler, was named after his amazing actions and ruthlessness in power. The attempt failed miserably, and Harald was severely wounded. Even as he became embroiled in imperial succession disputes and intrigue, his activity for the emperor had made him extremely wealthy, which he had been sending back to friends in Kiev and Rus for safekeeping. Harald eventually made his way home, perhaps feeling scared by his uncle's reputation. Magnus agreed to co-rule Norway with Harald until he passed away a year later, putting Harald in charge alone. But for Harald, one crown was insufficient, and he spent the following 15 years trying to ascend to the Danish throne. His relentless fighting and propensity to ruthlessly put down any domestic dissent earned him the nickname Harald Hotrodder, which is another way of saying Harald for the Hard Ruler. Duke William of Normandy, King Harald Hardrada, and others all upheld their claims and organized forces to seize the kingdom by force. Tostig Godwinson, the brother of the recently crowned English King Harold Godwinson, decided to ally himself with Harald Hardrada, and the two came together. Despite some early successes, Harold Godwinson Sami ultimately defeated and murdered Harold when he attacked northern England in September. However, it's possible that in the process, weakened the King of England sufficiently so that he too would very soon die at the hands of William the Conqueror in the infamous Battle of Hastings, allowing William to capture the English throne and altering history for all time. According to legend, Harald Hardrada perished like a Viking warrior, storming forward during fierce combat and violently chopping at his enemies. Number 4. Rollo. Only a small number of the limitless Viking warriors who invaded the coasts of Europe are remembered by name today, and even fewer left a permanent legacy. However, it was Rollo who would go from simply another Viking pirate to creating a strong duchy and a dynasty that would see his offspring ascend to the throne. Rollo fled Scandinavia after a mysterious childhood to participate in raids in England, Scotland, and France. He took part in the 885 Viking siege of Paris by sailing up the Seine with a force that included thousands of soldiers and hundreds of ships. In exchange for ceasing his raids, vowing homage to him, and defending his realm against impending Viking invasions from his people, the king promised a large tract of land to the north of Paris. With Rollo's consent, his duchy was given the title Normandy, which translates to Northman's country. Rollo agreed to be baptized as a Christian and took the king's daughter as his bride despite her age of 5, which secured the two men's agreement. Rollo would establish himself as a successful king, solidifying his hold on his new territories and setting the groundwork for the Duchy of Normandy to rise to prominence as one of France's most potent provinces. His great-great-great-grandson William the Conqueror, who led an effective invasion of England in 1066 and succeeded in becoming king after winning the Battle of Hastings, is perhaps the most famous ancestor. Despite being baptized as a Christian, Rollo is believed to have died a pagan in 930 AD. According to one historian, as his demise drew near, he went insane and beheaded 100 Christians as a final act of defiance to honor the Viking gods. Number 3. Eric the Red. The thrill of finding uncharted regions and experiencing things neither man has ever seen attracts more explorers to put themselves in danger for the chance to become famous and wealthy. On the other hand, Eric the Red had no such high aspirations and was forced to sail west to Greenland's freezing, uncharted wilderness. Nevertheless, it wouldn't take Eric long to emulate his father. A gang of Eric's slaves accidentally caused a landslide on his neighbor's property while working on the land, destroying the man's home. However, it appears that Eric was offended by the person murdering civilians who were considered to be his property. Eric was compelled to leave his father's precious wood beams in the care of a friend and flee to a nearby island. Eric chose to take them by force, and the ensuing conflict resulted in the deaths of the man's 2 sons and several other men. Before locating a region in the southwest that appeared to be ice-free, he spent his 3-year exile mapping the coast of Greenland and surveying the ice-covered mainland for appropriate sites for farming and hunting. After his exile was complete, he went back to Iceland to recruit additional people and ships to build the first settlement. So in 986 AD, he created tales of a spot called Greenland that seemed much more attractive than the ice-laden reality, but this act of advertising was successful in drawing hundreds of individuals to adhere to him across the sea. Eric the Red died as the colony's leader, eventually expanding to accommodate 5,000 people. Over 500 years earlier, Columbus embarked on his illustrious journey to the New World. His son Leif Erikson became widely recognized as the first European to discover North America. Number 2. Ragnar Lothbrok. The legends surrounding the mythical Norse hero Ragnar Lothbrok include claims that he was the son of kings, raider of strong Christian nations, husband to well-known shield maidens, plunderer of Paris, even the ancestor of Odin, the Norse god of battle. But are Ragnar's stories based on the adventures of a real person, a composite of several separate warriors, or merely fabricated myths meant to motivate? According to tradition, Ragnar was born the child of Sigurd Ring, who served as the king of Sweden and Denmark. Ragnar's victory over the French King Charles, the bald grandson of the powerful Charlemagne, caused Paris to fall, and the humiliated monarch was compelled to give Ragnar an eye-watering 7,000 silver in payment for his departure. Yet despite accumulating such incredible amounts of wealth, Ragnar's attacks across the European coasts continued to make him formidable foes. King Eilert imagined the most agonizing and humiliating end in his rage at the raids Ragnall had set out in his domains. Throwing the rebel Viking into a pool of vipers as punishment caused his bones to crack, and the deadly snake slowly bit and poisoned him to death. Following Icelandic mythology, Ragnar faced death with pride, happy that he'd soon be entering Valhalla, before making a final prophecy about the fate which awaited King Aella and England once his sons learned of his passing. Imagine how the little piglets would groan, firmly predicting the deadly retribution his sons would exact against Aella and the realms of England if they understood the suffering the old bear endured. Ragnar's legacy would live on through his sons, who fathered numerous men who became renowned warriors in their way. Includes the dreaded Eivor the Boneless and his brothers, who would lead the large army of heathens over the North Sea to punish Ragnar, and Bjorn Ironside, who would discover and raid the Mediterranean. Whether Ragnar was a genuine person made up of various characters or just a myth, his name has endured the test of time, having gained notoriety as a hero among his people, but as a villain among those whose misery he was responsible for. Number 1. Eivor the Boneless. Eivor the Boneless, who may be the greatest renowned Viking of all time due to a captivating combination of mystery and great savagery, became renowned for his cunning and ruthlessness. Many numbers die in battles, and even powerful kings have brutally killed 2 people at his hands. There were several explanations for how Eivor came by his infamous moniker. Eivor and his brothers gathered an extraordinary army of Viking fighters from all over Scandinavia, possibly numbering in the tens of thousands, in 865, which came to be known as the Great Heathen Army. Legend has it that the army was assembled to wreak vengeance on the English king of Northumbria, who is said to have executed Eivor Lothbrok's famed father by tossing him into a pit of snakes. At the time, Northumbria was entangled in a civil war, a conflict that Eivor from a distance and the North would have been aware of. Asami swiftly overcame the English army, took York, the capital of Northumbria, and imprisoned King Aella, the man who had killed his father. Eivor is believed to have ordered Aguilar's execution by the scary Viking Blood Eagle. What is known is that Eivor left a bloody trail across England, showing a brilliant grasp of battle strategy and tactics, and a distressingly brutal streak when treating his adversaries. It's possible that he used this extreme cruelty as an outgrowth of his battle strategy using the fear associated with his name to frequently force potential adversaries to submit without a fight. After capturing the realm of East Anglia, the former King Edmund was thrashed with clubs hung from a tree and shot with arrows in one such instance of this severe level of cruelty. The details of Ivor's death are disputed, but it is believed that he lived to a surprisingly advanced age before dying peacefully, as opposed to the multitudes of unfortunate people who perished horribly due to his invasion. The British Isles were relieved when Ivor the Boneless finally left this world. This concludes today's 5 Vikings videos. Which of the Vikings on the list did you find interesting? Let us know in the comments section below. Like and subscribe to receive notifications of related videos. Until then, bye folks! Click the video on the screen to watch similar videos.